Warm revolutionary greetings to everybody out there. You're tuned in to episode 18 of the Revolutionary Social Work Podcast. And this episode was special for a couple of reasons. One, it was recorded live at the NASW, the National Association of Social Workers National Conference in Chicago. And it was the first episode of our Outside the Status Quo series. And it was unique for another reason. Usually, Alicia is obviously right here next to me as my co-host. But in this instance, we kind of flipped the script around and she came on as a guest. So the focus was a little bit more on you. How was that experience for you?
It was weird. It was weird for multiple reasons because I'm so used to having you here. But it was also, it was good. It was nice to talk about things that maybe we don't always get into. We got into a lot of kind of talk on trauma and more of the clinical practices and approaches that we can take to healing from trauma. So it was good. It was fun.
Yeah, it's some interesting dynamics. We were there live. Mm-hmm. We had Jerome MT as a special guest, and we were recording live, so there was people moving around. It was a bustling environment, and then you were joining us here from basically here in the quiet jungle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was our anniversary of our celebration of love.
Yeah, well, you can find out more about that by staying tuned for the rest of the episode. So that's all we got for now, and we hope you enjoy this one as much as we did. Peace, everybody.
Hey, listen, we got some things that we gotta discuss. How we can affect the system and make it better for us. But first, we gotta start with the man in the mirror. Open your third eye and the vision's gonna be much clearer. We are revolutionary. We are visionary. And we stand resolute on those who pollute the minds of many. Revolutionary. We are visionary. And we stand resolute on those who pollute the minds of many, y'all. This is the Revolutionary Social Work Podcast, y'all.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the Revolutionary Social Work Podcast. This is a very special episode because we are here live at the NASW National Conference in Chicago. I don't know about you, MT, but I'm still getting my bearings about me.
Yeah, definitely trying to get grounded right now.
Yeah, I always say it's not a real podcast without the technical difficulties, and try doing it on the fly. When you just landed, you're tired down here in the studio. But Alicia's with us all the way from the Big Island in Hawaii.
I sure am. It sounds so like buzzing there. I can feel the energy of the conference.
There's certainly a lot of people. The CEO is standing right in front of us looking at us.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Well, happy anniversary.
To you too.
What? Happy anniversary.
I know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, it's confusing because we have several anniversaries, like when we met and then when we got married by some judge in a courthouse for immigration reasons. And then this would be the actual wedding that we had.
Wow.
8
Celebration.
years?
Yep. Celebration of love 8 years ago.
10 years together, 8 years married officially. Well, really 9 years officially, 8 years ceremonially.
Wow.
Exactly.
Congratulations. Come on, let's get that teamwork right there. That's lovely.
Well, I miss you, dear.
I miss you too.
Glad to be having you here in our first episode here at the conference. There's a lot of things that we can talk about, but maybe we ought to start with Zaid, who is not down here they don't want to let children in here, and Zaid Ko is our little assistant, so he's actually up in the hotel room right now holding it down the fort, and we were going to have him call in, but we were worried about technical problems. They have the duo login and whatnot, so I was afraid to leave my phone, and he had a question. Alicia is a yoga therapist, revolutionary yogi, a clinical therapist, and he wanted to know how everything you do, how you incorporate that into your family life.
Good question, Koa. I think one thing that I've realized is, I knew this, but in practice seeing it, is how much our kids watch what we're doing. And I think that's the best part of me getting up every morning and doing my yoga practice and then using my breath throughout the day, stretching out tension and talking about different values in terms of like the ethics of yamas and niyamas. I think just doing it, our kids watch us and then we see them do it. Like I'll be out in the morning and doing my yoga asana and pranayama and meditation. And then I'll see one of the kids come with their yoga mat, put it beside me, and either do like their own little yoga or do what I'm doing. And I think that is so important, is that they see us doing things that take care of ourselves, our body, our mind. And it connects us as well. Like when I remember recently, Aaliyah, our youngest, she did a yoga practice with me, and she did like the whole thing that I was doing with me. And it was just so great because she would be doing the postures and she'd look at me for kind of reassurance. But it was just like this connection that we had. And yeah, it wasn't like the most peaceful yoga practice I ever did, but it was beautiful just connecting with Aaliyah. So yeah, I think that's how I incorporate it, trying to role model how to take care of myself and how to connect within and then connect with each other, each family member too.
Yeah, I love it. And I mean, what makes us a family and what makes us unique is we operate with everything that we do. If you don't know Alicia and I that well, we operate on family-based values. And that includes like the projects that we have, the work that we do, the podcast, talking circles, yoga, like she just mentioned. And your thing says ACE, by the way.
I need to be connected to you, dear.
Yeah.
It's anniversary time, that's why.
ACE,
I need to take it up.
One. ACE means one. There's only one of us.
You are the one and only.
No, but I mean, what I was trying to say is that we operate on a family-based value system. And so we include them in everything we do. If one of us goes to a conference, we have the rule that nobody goes alone anywhere for as much as possible. And so if we go to a conference, we bring a kid or multiple kids and we incorporate them in the things that we do, call them our little apprentices. But really it's about, demonstrating and modeling, what we want to see out of them and what we hope they turn into and helping them build skills. If you tune into us in a couple of years, Zaid and Naya and maybe Aaliyah are going to be over here running the technical difficulty parts and setting it up for us and holding it down. So you also said that you were, you just got to our new house, which is in a place called Pahoa in the Kuna district down by the volcano on the Big Island. And you told me you had a few cats that were doing yoga with you too.
Oh yeah. That was fun. Mosquitoes and cats. So that also wasn't the most peaceful thing, but it's grounding in its own way, right? Because you're just there with the natural environment. And then the cat just wanted to be close to me. And so it just lied in the middle of the mat and I had to maneuver around it, which was fun. It's nice having animals around us again. That's important. I know how much you like animals.
Well, I'll be happy to get there and check them out and you'll have to introduce us.
Mm-hmm.
What's on your mind, MT?
I was thinking about my dog back home and like how much I enjoy having him around, and also how I have to deal with sometimes the minor frustration of them not behaving the way you want them to, or them interrupting or what we think is an interruption, right? But they're just being their full selves, and a part of the practice is us navigating that. Like today, we got in an Uber, right? Woman comes and picks us up, and it had to be the most absurdly, ridiculously rude approach I've ever had, right? The woman was like complaining about the way we put our bags in her trunk, and then didn't want us to have our backpacks or other bags with us because it might scratch her seats. And she was really vocal and everything like that, but very aggressive. And we kind of both were like in this, like, should we just call a different Uber or something? And instead we're like, no, we're going to get in a car. And the conversation and the things that we're talking about, you could just see all of her tension get out, right? Like she was prepared for someone to be the same way that she had already been, like abrasive, aggressive, right? So she was so prepared for that. But as we were driving, her voice softened, her energy, she started asking us inquisitive questions. Curiosity was there instead of conflict, right? But without that, we wouldn't have had it. And we're sitting there and I'm looking at Zaid and I'm like, Zaid, these are the moments that we work for. Like, this is the moment that all of the breath work, the yoga, the meditation, this is when we get to like plow this through. So yeah, in your story, I was just kind of reflecting on that too. The work isn't to organize and construct the outside world to behave the way you want it to so you can always be comfortable. Is so that in times of discomfort, in times of unknown or even pain, we can navigate it with ease, with joy, with whatever emotion or thought pattern that we want to implement, right? Like we have the agency, the authority, and even the audacity to say that I'm going to think, feel, and behave the way that I want to. You know, like that's such a great use of the tool.
Yeah.
And you educating it in by example and demonstration, that's such a great display of education. For me, education has always been through example and not through, academic rigor, right? Like it's not memory, it's character.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I appreciated how you made it a learning experience for Zaid, because in a previous life of mine not too long ago, that lady would have set me off, and she kind of did. And I was, do you want us to call a different Uber? And she kind of changed her tone a little bit, but it's a great opportunity because, like you said, the kids see what you do, they model what you do, they interpret it, and if I'm cursing her out or something like that, then it causes anxiety on everybody's part, the woman, me, Rome, Zaid, everybody there. And so to be able to model that is really when you think about it, it was a kind of a test, but it's also a blessing because it allowed us to model how you might handle a conflict and then process through it with him. How do you're a therapist, you work with all kinds of people that are struggling with mental health issues, things like that. Even in our family, you know what I mean? We're struggling at times, and sometimes things get a little out of hand or whatnot. How do you use your skills from being a therapist? How do you bridge those two worlds, to help maintain your own sense of calmness and presence, but also how do you instill that in others, whether you're talking about the clients that you work with or, the children or myself?
Yeah. The biggest thing that was coming through when MT was talking and you were talking about that story is one thing I do teach people I work with is be careful not to just absorb everyone's energy or reflect their energy, transform it, right? So if this lady's giving out some tension and just more negative energy, you don't want to just absorb it and then reflect it back to her because it's just going to bounce back and forth. You want to transform it into something that may be more easier for you to carry and then to use, or something that's going to just transform the whole situation. Which sounds like what you guys were able to do. And that's what I think I try and do every day of my life. It doesn't always work out. It's not always easy, but noticing everyone else's energy around me and then being able to transform it in a way that is positive. As I say this, I also think there's a side of that can be maybe not so beneficial, which I think I built up when I was a kid, noticing people were sad or angry and then feeling the energy and then wanting to make it okay. But it was more of like an anxious way of wanting to fix everything. So it's not quite that. It's more transforming it and using some more grounded energy to transform it into something positive. So yeah, that's what I try and do, and it's what I teach other people to do. It's not always easy and we're never going to be perfect, but the more we practice it, the easier it gets, and the more you're able to notice. It's not anxiously trying to fix it, I'm trying to transform it into something positive.
Yeah, I have another follow-up question, but I just wanted to shout out, we have some very beautiful friends and family in the chat. What's up, Alice? Hey, Cache. What's up, Jesse? And we'll get to your question in just a minute, Jesse. And if anybody feels like calling in, feel free to jump on and join us here on the stream. But what about when you run into resistance? Because I look at my previous self. Let's talk about that guy again. I would have been resistant, and I would have been, when you would have told me those things, I would have still went out into the world and, had a very shallow vision of these things. And I would still look at myself entitled enough to get pissed off at somebody, to not feel grounded, to not be present. And I know you have clients like that for surely. When you're trying to work through this, you experience resistance. So how do you work through that?
Yeah. And I mean, my biggest question would be like, how's that serving you? Like, how are you doing with that? Is that working out for you? Probably not. And so looking at also, one thing I do like to do is to have people just tell me, like, what are your values, or what do you want your values to be? Like, how do you want your life to look? You could, the whole miracle question kind of thing, like, but going that route. So someone's trying to explain to me what they want it to be like. And then the other thing is 99% of the time not going to align with the values they want or they have. So really just having them see it for themselves. but questioning, is it serving you? And like, if I'd asked you that at that time, is it serving you? Like, what would you have said?
I probably would have answered truthfully, and if I thought, if I had thought about it for a minute, I would say nothing. But I still think that I would. I think I would still have trouble translating it to outside. I think I would be able to talk to you about it in the office, and I don't know if I would be able to do it outside of the office. But I guess from other things in my experience, just talking about it might be that first step to plant the seed, to start, practicing that out in the real world.
Bro, you're better than me. A few years ago, I would have been like, yes, it served me so well. I felt so good telling her off. Like, you're better than me. I would not have listened. I would have had to hit my head like 5-6 times. And then I would have been like, hey, you know what? I'm tired of like having headaches after yelling at people because they gave me bad customer service.
But would it have served you, like if I'd asked you about your values, was it serving you to get towards your values, to connect with your values?
Yeah. I think that's really important, right? Is like, does it serve the values? And one thing that I really enjoyed was you mentioned a quality of not judging the sensation, right? Like, just because something feels pressured doesn't mean that you need relief, right? That's the opposite, or the opposing or the composite of that is not what's needed. That's not what brings balance all the time. Sometimes, stress might need the right organization. Maybe it needs structure in order for it to flow and be healthy, and not relief. But so many of us are in that reflective or reactive, institution. So when you were talking about reflecting the emotion or the energy back, you talked about it in both ways. Like, one of just giving back the same, maybe aggressive or uncomfortable energy, but then also thinking that you have to balance it somehow by being, the same amount, the same volume or a mass of the opposite feeling or the opposite energy. So if they're really aggressive, in order for there to be balance, you have to be passive. That's not always true, unless you know your values. And then, like you said, knowing the value system helps guide us and helps, give us direction on, does it work? Does it not work? Because if not, then it's just sensory, right? And it always feels good to express whatever you want without caring about someone else. Right? But that's probably the reason why somebody's hurt in the first place.
Right.
So I really loved how you put that, like the different qualities of our experience still being a reflective or a reactive response to it, and how we have the agency to transform that energy instead of just respond in a way that's like blah. I loved it. That was so good. I need to add that to my book. Like,
yeah.
Hey, well,
Part two.
So work me through this then, because I was thinking of a recent example where I don't necessarily react in the, a little like violently verbal. But my pet peeve that's come up in recent years is we were at the beach and a Hawaiian monk seal shows up. We were just talking about this earlier, but seriously,
Oh
Hawaiian
my.
monk seal will show up, and this has been on multiple islands at multiple beaches, and you'll have a lady that will come over, and I call them the seal protecting Karens. But they come over when we're minding our own business, and they lecture us on what we need to do to stay away from the seal or whatever. And I get it, you want to protect the seal, because we've seen people be disrespectful as well. So I want to honor that side. Like, I've seen that happen when we were in Kauai at Shipwreck Beach or whatever. But they come over and they don't get the hint that, like, we're here, we know. And it's not like it's like Kanaka Native Hawaiians. It's like a white woman from the mainland that's over here. And they just don't get the point. And one of them made my little son, Zayd, that's here with us. He was younger than like 2 years old or something, but she made him cry. And so I don't know if I have this inner resentment or whatever, but we were talking about like justifying it. If does it serve me? I think if you asked me, like, we were out swimming, remember, I took everyone in the water because I didn't want her to come talk to us, because she'd already talked to us the last time. And I feel very justified in my resentment towards that lady and towards, if anybody else were to approach me in the same way. But when I really think about that, it doesn't align with my values. And I'm dismissing this woman without even, I'm assuming that she's going to come over here and lecture me again. But maybe she just wanted to say, hey, nice to see you again, if that makes sense. And
when
so
you would have missed out on that opportunity.
Yeah, how do I because this is a smaller deal, you know what I mean? But maybe that makes it easier to justify, like I said. And even though I sit here and can say that I live my life based on a value-based system, but here I am going against it, and I have to, look a little closer in the mirror, which is, what revolutionary social work is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with the self in any kind of transformation, and what kind of person am I, or what kind of example am I? Again, when I talk about those values, if I'm not adhering to them or not willing to look a little closer, even when I feel more justified in it. Walk me through that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, knowing you so well, that justification, I imagine there's like somatic things that come up in your body too when you're feeling that. There's like a reaction physiologically that comes up. And I think that tells you something, that it's like an initial response, and it may not be completely a grounded response. It's more of an initial reaction, right? And not so much a grounded response. And that thing that I can't remember where you got this from, but when you told me about, you may not know what to do, but if you know who to be, or who you are, who you want to be, like that's the path to take, right? And so you may want to, you feel justified, and you may want to say something. And I know we've had conversations, and you were going to, there was a very like comedic conversation you were going to have with this lady, and we were talking through that. And I think that is one way of reacting, but it's not quite who you want to be. And it's not the values that you're wanting to live, or like your authentic self is living currently. And so I think it's just balancing that, going back to your values and who you want to be. And then I think what you did was fine. We went in the water and we chilled, and she was chill.
Right. It was a better outcome than, some, like I talked about in my previous life. But I still think, you bring up another value. I always, when students and whatnot ask me for one piece of advice, my number one thing I say is, to be yourself in all circumstances. And we talk about authentic self. When I look at myself or imagine myself in the mirror, my authentic self would have been handled more like the woman in the taxi, with the experience with the woman in the taxi. And I would have, given her a chance, first of all, instead of just assuming that she was coming over here to quote unquote bother us again. And yeah, I think if I look at myself in the mirror, I would have wanted to address her and not dismissed her or ran away from her so quickly. And I would want to be the person, I think the authentic self that I see myself as would have bridged that gap by, being kind and polite regardless of the situation. Because it's not that bad of a thing to come over and lecture me for a minute, and people have done much worse over the outcome of my life. And so I'm glad we talked about that, because, I was almost talking about it like I'm bragging, like I'm bragging that I have this pet peeve of this Karen, but I'm making the situation, worse for everyone. Not that bad, but a little bit worse when I have the power to transcend that and actually turn that into a positive experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that power that we often don't think we have, because we get the reactions, right? We feel it in our body and our mind, and we're like, oh, we just have to run with it. We have no control, but we do.
Yeah. Well, let's take this comment from Alice, and then we'll go answer Jesse's question in just a minute. Alice says, I've never really thought about the energy exchange in relation to my values, but I feel like I do have some experience reflecting energy at work. So many of my customers have decreased cognition and verbal capacity. We learn to use nonverbal communication to reduce negative energy. I like that as well. That was some of my number one tools when I used to work with troubled youth.
Yes.
When the verbal's not working, you turn into the nonverbal, and sometimes even just presence, and it can work.
Yeah. That's huge. So huge. And I think we don't use that enough. Sometimes we think we only have our voice, and when that's not working, then it's just over. But if you just also taking just a deep breath, when you notice, if you're in a room of people that are really tense, and you just come in and you're like, and you just exhale super slowly, it's just incredible to see how the energy can change. And it's those kind of like subtle changes and shifts in our energy that goes along with these nonverbal behaviors and cues that can change everybody else's. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jesse asks, going back to the beginning of the conversation, how do you get your kids more involved with yoga practice, or to get them interested in it? And maybe you can even, because you've been doing it at work too, to varying success as far as participation, right? A little bit of like hesitancy sometimes. So how do you deal with, because I talk to a lot of people often, and when you get into breath work and yoga, they're like, oh, I can't do that. I don't do that for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, I think with the kids, we've been doing it with them probably since they were like 2. We've been doing breathing exercises. I would teach them the balloon breathing, where you'd take a big inhale and then breathe and imagine they're blowing up this big balloon, so it just extends their exhale, but you make it fun. It's like, what color is your balloon? How big is it getting? Let's make it bigger the next time. So I've been doing that with them since they were really young. And then role modeling again. But also, like, we got them fun yoga mats that they like to use, and they have these little yoga cards where they have different postures that they can try together and by themselves. Yoga books, just things like that, which puts it in their mind. And they're curious. Kids are naturally curious, right? So that's for them. For people I work with, there's been a lot of resistance, and people just don't feel like it's for them. Like it's this thing, okay, cool. Yeah, that's great for other people, but not for me. And which I found, but I have a few people that come every single week, and I run a group called Mindful Movement. So I try and be very aware that people don't have like this extensive yoga background. So it's not like an intermediate vinyasa yoga class, but I'm incorporating like a mini vinyasa flow with modifications, a lot of breath work, a lot of just cueing. Notice your breath and notice what it feels like. Notice, we'll move through today. Right before this, actually, I did the mindful movement group, and we brought up our heart rate, and then we just stood for a minute and just cueing the person to notice their heart rate. How does it feel? Notice how their breathing feels. Are they hot? Are they cold? And then going again. So it's balancing that movement, the stillness, balancing the heat with the coolness, balancing when our heart rate goes up, if we're in like anxious, stressful situations, with, okay, I have the power to then calm my heart rate and reduce my blood pressure and slow my breath. So just teaching that, that's how I incorporate it in my work. So it's not as intimidating, I guess. It's tools that can be applied to daily life. But we're doing it in this kind of mini practice, which I call mindful movement, which has, like you said, there's been resistance, and it's hard to get people to even try it. So that's hard. But once people do try it, I have seen that they do enjoy it, and every week they feel like they're getting better at it, which is fun to see.
You don't ever feel like yelling at them and being like, if you just do this hour-long power yoga, it will revolutionize your life.
I do, but no, as we know, gotta let people meet them where they're at. Gotta let people plant the seed, right? And so that's also another thing. If I can plant the seed with the people that I work with individually, just plant the little seeds and we just practice a little thing, then maybe they'll end up coming. And same with my coworkers. Every Monday morning, I've started a mindfulness. We'll do like 5-10 minutes of mindfulness before we start the Monday in the week. And I love seeing that, because there's people there that have never done anything like it before. And they're therapists, so they're kind of aware of these things, but they've never just sat down before work and done alternate nostril breathing. And so that's really fun to incorporate it in there and planted seeds for them, and then they can share with their clients. So planting seeds is how I like to look at it.
Yeah, when I went to rehab like 20 years ago, and I didn't understand any of it at the time, but I think the guy came and talked to us about yoga and breath work, and I thought he was a kook, and I didn't take him really seriously because it was esoteric for me, and I just had a closed off mindset. But I think just even him coming and talking about it later on, when I re-encountered it, it gave me just a little bit of an in, if that makes sense. So I think the seeds, no matter how shallow they are, you know what I'm saying, can make a difference at some point in someone's life. Mm-hmm. You've had a lot of experience with yoga too. Have you worked with others in it, or is it more of a personal practice for you?
It's definitely a personal practice. I developed one that was more centered around our Odisha somatic healing movement practices. So less ancient India and more ancient Africa, Yoruba, right? And we've had our breath work and our movement systems. So I was sharing that a lot. And one of the things that I've noticed, and you brought it up as well, sis, is, we're dealing with the sensation of the body. And so many of us have been educated that what you think and what you feel is who you are, right? And so we hold on to the desire of like a really tight grip around our thoughts and emotions, because we think, if I'm not expressing and being the anger that I feel that's igniting in my body, then I'm not being authentic, right? Like we've been told that now. But like you said, with the yogic practice, with breath work, with these really physical tools. Like we get the responses and the reactions in the body, right? The somatic experience of like heightened blood pressure and your blood is boiling and you feel all of that. But that also tells us exactly the tool that we can use to regulate it, right? Like you said, like once you notice, right, you acknowledge that that thing is firing up. Now we know, okay, the body, you felt it. Let's use the body to deal with it, right? And so if the body smelt it, then the body's the one that can deal it, right? It can deal with it. So I love how you talk about the the struggle that most people have. And I think it is because we're dealing with the body, right? The same struggle with the emotions and all of that is the same struggle that people have with changing their physical thing. Because it's always hard to get people to start a habit, right? And to be consistent with it. And it's because they're so attached to the processes and the reactions and the sensations of who they've been experiencing the world as, right? And then if they don't, or if they want to improve, like that's a lot of work, like showing up every day and doing this when my balance is like not where I thought it was yesterday, because it was yesterday that it was good, and then today it sucked, and then tomorrow it might be good, because that was my experience learning yoga. It was like I had to learn that the feelings are passing, that every time is a little bit different, and that I don't have to sit and hold the different sensations that I was feeling. And that's where my agency and my authority and all of my freedom really come from. Like you said at the very beginning, was like, we can literally choose and transform the situations and the experiences into something we desire.
Yeah, we can. It's uncomfortable to change, but it's awesome on the other side where you feel like, wow, I have control. It's empowering, incredibly empowering.
Well, let's tie this into the circle of self. So you've been working on a book, you've been working on the practice. You can, if you want to learn more about the circle of self, you could check out Alicia Stettler's Substack, or you can go to revolutionarysocialwork.com, or what's your aliciastettler.com as well.
Yeah.
Go to any of those. But tell us about the circle of self, as if we don't know anything at all about it.
So the circle of self, it's more of like an idea, a framework to think of. So working in this field for a while now, I've done a lot of trainings and things on different kind of therapies and treatments, and which can be great, can be really great. But I feel like there's something missing that's just more simple, that doesn't need someone else's service. It doesn't need a ton of money. It really doesn't need anything else apart from yourself. And so the circle of self is 7 different elements, which I feel like if we focus on in this kind of circle that surrounds us, it's a foundation that leaves us grounded, empowered, in control of our life, the parts that are controllable, healthy, happy. It leads us on a healing path as well. So the 7 elements, they are movement, balance with stillness. You got nature, nourishment, love, community, and spirit. And so some of those are very self-explanatory, but movement is physical bodies, but also moving emotional energy too, right? So the word emotion itself is energy in motion. And so we have these feelings in our body. How do we move them? It could be yoga. It could be going for a run. It could be swimming, but it could also be doing art. It could be journaling, right? It's moving these emotions. That's movement. And then the balance of that with stillness. We need to be still. We need to have rest. We need to be able to declutter our minds from the crazy world that we live in. So that might be meditation. It might be pranayama, breath work, but it may just be yourself sitting there with a cup of tea, whatever it is for you. And then nourishment, food for sure. Definitely encourage just whole foods as much as possible. Water as much as possible, eliminating things like soda and processed sugar and foods as much as possible. But it's not about like a diet or anything. It's just nourishing your body in a positive way. The other side of that, though, is thinking about what are we consuming through media? What are we watching? What are we listening to? Is it positive? Is it giving us motivation to live our values? Or is it derogatory, talking about sex, drugs, partying, and the things that probably don't align with our values. So nourishment is there's a lot to nourishment. What else? Love. Love is very much rooted first and foremost in self-love, because to give love to others, we need to love ourselves. So it's looking at different ways that you can do that. First, acknowledging where you're at on that path of self-love. Some people don't feel like they have love for themselves, and starting there and figuring out why, looking at yourself, looking within and seeing what's there. What are you not liking? What do you like about yourself? There's definitely things. What do you like? A lot of times people will say what they like about what they do for other people. And so even starting there and then just working backwards within, but then looking at the love around you. Who's giving you love? Who are you giving love to? So that's love. So we've got movement, stillness, nourishment, love. Nature is very much connecting with the natural world in different ways. So that could be, yes, get outside, be with the trees, put your bare feet on the ground, go swim in the ocean, but also aligning with our natural cycles. So for women, that will be our menstrual cycles. For men, there's more of a 24-hour hormonal cycle based on testosterone, but everyone's unique. So knowing your own cycle. There's seasonal cycles, which oftentimes we don't pay attention to. I have an article on the New Year's resolutions, which gets me every year because we're still in that winter phase when it's New Year's. And then there's kind of this consumerist mainstream push to make these New Year's resolutions. January 1st, you're going to have these big goals that you're going to enact. But we're still in our winter phase. So I think just aligning more with the seasons, the natural world tells us, and it depends where we're at, right? Hawaii is very, very different from Alaska. But still there's some seasons. Community, who's around us, people draining your energy, people giving you energy. Where are you spending your time and your energy there? And then spirit. Spirituality is very unique to everybody. It's not based on religious practices. It could be, but whatever gives you some sort of sense of deeper meaning or purpose or connection to a higher power. It could be any, all, or none of those things, but whatever is spirit, soul, spirituality for you is also important and part of that circle. So the idea is just having those 7 elements in mind and just checking in on yourself every now and again is, where am I at in these 7 elements? Are there places that I'm doing really great, that are really strong, and there are places that I'm neglecting? Focus a little bit more energy on that. See what you're doing well in these other areas that can help you in those areas that you're struggling in. And that's your foundation, right? And so then whatever life throws at you, if your circle is strong, if your foundation is strong, you're going to be so much more resilient. You're going to be able to, weather the storm much more easier and quicker, most likely, if you have this strong circle that you've created. And it's you that's creating it, which is empowering in itself. So I hope I didn't babble on too long about that, but yeah, it's just this framework that just building a strong foundation and roots for yourself.
It really seems like you can, when you have that so clearly articulated, that you can see the areas or the spaces that might need attention, like that situation that rose up for us today. If I have that in my mind to like say, okay, something struck up in me, let me check my circle, right? And then you look at that, you really could say like, oh, you know what, the nature or the movement right now is what I need to attend to, or I just need to give my attention to it. I don't need to fix it,
Right.
but like maybe it's the pacing, right? Like today, I'll share my little thing. Me and Ace and Zayd were walking, right? And Ace is over here, he got to get stuff done. But I'm Uncle MT and I'm Mr. Zen Walker, and Ace is walking. He's walking, man. Like, yo, I got long legs too, but I got to step it up, right? And so I was like sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, if I was like not in the same energy or process, man, if this was a couple of months ago and I wanted to do things myself and I wasn't in this state of like flowing and stuff, man, we would have been like, I would have been irritated. I would have had to take a walk and a breath, because I wasn't in my flow and I was feeling like rushed or anything. So that was a movement thing, right? Or it could have been. But like you said, I knew that movement was an issue, right? So I'm like, okay, let me see what the movement is. I need to get on my brother's movement because we got things to do and you're supposed to do it with him. So get to moving. I was like, let's go, bro. Let's boom, 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 boom. But if I didn't have my circle, if I didn't know that that was something that's important to me, because movement is very important, I never would have thought to just put my attention on what's moving, right? Today, movement is a big issue. We've got at the Uber, that's movement, right? And it was like, how do we align with the modes of transportation, the modes of movement, the method of it, but also maybe the speed, right? The resistance I'm having to move. Maybe I feel stuck in that moment, you know, and he's like moving fast. And I'm like, man, I feel emotionally stuck here and you're energized over there. So just like having that and also having like a open framework for what that movement is or what those things were. The way you explained it was so great. Like it wasn't like this is what is codified, but it's personal and it's curated and it's, you know, it's made special for the way that you define it in a way that you want to perceive life and live it. I love that. That's great. I can't wait. I want to get a circle book. Was it? I want the book. Where is it?
Yeah, Circle of Self. It's in process. Hopefully it will be ready soon.
Coming soon. I got a couple of things to say about that because my mom trained me for this moment at an early age, man. Walking through the mall, I remember my legs didn't move fast enough every single time. And so, no, but I feel you and I could feel the, you know, the different energies and whatever. And I very much would like to just walk around with you and Zaid and not have to worry about anything. But we made it, you know, barely here on time to get it started. And so it was going through my mind. I have these responsibilities. I got to get there and get it set up and all of this. But, you know, everything works out.
Yeah, he did amazing. And guess what? I got like 10 extra steps in the day. Like,
there you go.
Girl,
you transformed your energy.
We so transformed it. Like we've been transformers all day. Like the 3 men, you should be so proud of us. We've been transforming stuff all over the day. Yeah, we've been dealing. It's been great. You taught them well.
Yeah, clearly.
Everybody thinks I walk too fast. You guys need to hurry the hell up.
Oh, you do everything too fast. It's like going to a buffet with Christian. He has to get his food last. Like me and the kids gonna get our food. He needs to sit there and get his coffee because as soon as he has his plate, he's gonna be done. And we want to chill.
Have you ever watched a lion eat?
Yeah.
Do they take it slowly?
I'm the same.
I want to go to Duke's and chill.
Yeah, no. What are you doing? Food needs to be consumed. Get it in your belly. Exactly. You need energy. Who's tasting food these days? Just put it in. It's just fuel.
You need to wait till the end then too. Let me enjoy my food.
I'm the same though. I'm super slow. I'm the opposite. So my mother and my partners, they'll be like, and my mom's 5 foot, right? So she should not be moving faster than me. She'll be all the way down to the end of the street corner. And I'm like, Gloria, what are you doing? You're walking so fast. So yeah, no, it was me, bro. I had to pick it up today.
See you tomorrow. All good, all good. Hey, I wanted to take this back. They have a nice comment in the chat. And, you know, when you were talking about the circle of self, a lot of that is, you know, using that word esoteric or like out there for a lot of us, including, you know, like I said, me at different points in my life. And it takes a sense of vulnerability and discomfort to kind of jump into that thing. If you've never, you know, been, you know, operating on all cylinders, you've never been confident in those things, you're used to having certain kinds of relationships a certain way that don't benefit you, you know, you can get stuck in that because that's what you're comfortable with. And even though, you know, making those changes would improve your life, you know, and people are telling you that over and over again, it can still feel, you know, very difficult to make that jump. And, you know, like Cache said in the chat, humans are more comfortable with familiar miserableness than with the unknown possibility of true peace and freedom. You know, when we go back to the captivated mind, well, many of us, our entire lives, our minds have been captivated from the very moment, you know, we started to think we're placed in front of a TV and, you know, other things. And our mind is always taken. It's always captivated. And so you got to find a way to, you know, liberate yourself from that. How do you help people that are stuck like that?
That's hard. And I always say for me personally, the hardest person to work with, just because I think energetically is someone who is suffering with severe depression and stuck in that depression and feels comfortable in the miserable depression, right? Because you do want to be like, come on, let's just go do this thing together. You can have such a great life. And that's what I have to slow myself down and be like, okay, I don't have to fix this at all, but to just be a space where someone can, one, feel comfortable to express that depression that they're feeling, but also just take little baby steps, little wins here and there. But honestly, I find it's hard, and I think it's draining as a therapist. We don't talk about that as much, how draining it is when we're working with someone who is so stuck and holding on to this familiar, miserable, depressed state. And so, I mean, there's little things that can help in terms of like when we talk about yoga, there's little things that can boost serotonin and endorphins that we can do, and we can do it together. There's like breath work practices that we can do to bring up some of those endorphins that can feel good, and then they can use that in their lives as well. Movement just in itself can be very helpful, right? And so any kind of movement, whether we're doing it together or having them think about what's something that you've always wanted to do, or what's something that you and your partner could go do tonight, go for a little walk to the park, whatever, just little things like that. But then also the nourishment part as well. When someone's is feeling like so stuck, and these ideas, these breathworks and stuff is just too esoteric, too out there, going back to the basics of like, what are you eating? And if someone tells me, well, I have like 3 sodas a day for breakfast, I have like a bowl of cereal. Right before this, I had like a chocolate candy bar. I had a frozen pizza for lunch, those sort of things. Then it's just like red flag. What they're putting in their body is completely adding to this state of dis-ease that they're feeling, right? And so starting there with basics as well, just little things, making just little tiny goals for themselves. Yeah, I kind of forgot what your initial question was, but those are some of the things that I would do as someone who's really stuck in that depression.
You know, so it's like listening to you say that as a therapist, me as a layperson, it made me think like, you know how many of my friends and my brothers and people in my community need to know that you can go and get help before we're in that deep space of depression, right?
Yes.
And there's space before we get to there to work, and that therapists are more empowered to help you if we don't get to that place, because it's not such a drain on them as well. And so get in and get there and get seen and have someone else be a part of your healing journey, be accountable with you, stuff like that. I think that's so, like, it's so interesting even for me to hear, like, oh yeah, you know, you don't need to wait until you're like running your life with PTSD over and over and over again before you're like, you know what, let me talk to someone. Maybe someone else's perspective or vantage point might help me get some of that movement, some of that clarity, some of that unblocked, you know, energy, and release some of that disease. That was really amazing too, to just like that acknowledgement. So yeah, thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Like, just because if you think about those little things, if someone changed that in their lives, I mean, you don't need to be going to therapy every week for a year. Like that could be a few sessions of acknowledging, like, okay, make those little changes. And then that's all you really need. And then you can come back maybe in the future and do some different things. But I think sometimes we think about therapy as this lifelong thing, which it could be. For some people, it really could be. And I'm not putting any judgment on that. But I also think it's really useful in these little short bursts as well, is like just get a little jump start of, okay, just like shift these little things, and how are you thinking about this, get a different perspective on this, add this different thing here, and then it's a jump start to just continue living, and then you can come back. It doesn't have to, it could be, but it doesn't have to be this lifelong every week thing.
Yeah, what is it called when a disease is like gonna take you out eventually? They call it like being terminal, right? And it feels like so many times the narrative in our head is that trauma is terminal,
Yeah.
right? And that like I'm forever going to be dealing with this thing, or like I'm gonna have to go to therapy for my entire life. But it's also like just a great tool, like yoga and all of that. It's like it's great for it just to be available and to use, like you use your coffee maker. You know,
Mm-hmm.
every morning you get up to use your coffee maker. Getting up and doing your yoga is the same thing, you know, getting you
Mm-hmm.
in alignment and appropriate thing. I really love those like nuanced points that you brought out. Thank you, sis. I'm
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up trauma too, because a lot of people do think if you've had this traumatic event or you've had these multiple traumatic events throughout childhood and adulthood, that you're just going to have PTSD for the rest of your life. And it's not true at all, because PTSD and trauma is not what happened to you. It's how it impacted you and what you're carrying with you. And so there's definitely things that you can do to heal from trauma, to heal from PTSD. It is not a terminal disease or disorder at all. And one thing that I love to keep in mind is 70% of people that experience a trauma do not develop PTSD. So it's only 30% develop PTSD. And from those 30%, everybody could heal from PTSD. It doesn't mean that you can take away what happened to you, right? It's not dismissing that at all, but how it impacts your life and your future and your well-being 100% can be healed. And I think we need to remember that.
You're telling me that I can experience trauma and not have PTSD?
$100%.
That's revolutionary right there. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really pronounced that all trauma puts you in a set of disorder, and sometimes you can have trauma and still not be in disorder, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
your things can still be running okay. Like you can make it through and be resilient and all of that,
Right.
and it not mess up your flow, it not mess up your mind and your heart. And if it is disorder, then just putting it in order, right?
Mm-hmm.
Giving it an order, assigning it, and having that ability to do so is no longer existing. You're no longer in PTSD kind of frame.
Right.
That's so dope.
Right.
Like
And it's
healing
one of
isn't
my
miraculous. It's
favorite
just
things right
fun.
now. Yeah. Is seeing people. I use cognitive processing therapy, which is a very structured kind of assignment-based therapy. It's very much CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's not for everybody. But to see people go through it, and the screening tool we use, it's called the PCL, and so it gives you kind of the score of how severe your PTSD is. And someone I recently worked with, it was like 45-50 on the PCL when we started. And this is only like a 12 session thing that we do. And it went all the way down to 18. And that's 33 is about where we would say someone has PTSD. So to go from there to all like way, way under the PTSD threshold just shows you like these things they may feel like they're forever and that they're stuck in you and you cannot get away from it, but you can. And a lot of the time, PTSD, you're stuck in PTSD because of avoidance. And we do a lot of things to avoid the memories coming up or the thoughts coming up or the places coming up. And so there may be instances of self-harm or substance use or aggression or just many things that we use to avoid things. And that keeps you stuck in the PTSD. So it's kind of unraveling that stuff and then looking at what stuck points we call them, what's come up that's so stuck and ingrained in our thought processes that just keeps us in that state of trauma. So for example, if someone experienced a sexual assault, for example, that's one that comes up a lot. And then this stuck point comes up is all men are dangerous, something like that. And it's untying that and working towards, are all men dangerous? And then someone may come out the end and say, I have experienced some dangerous men, but not all men are dangerous. I also have some great men in my life, you know? So it's kind of unraveling those. And that's what leads you on that journey of healing and no longer being stuck in PTSD. So it's completely possible to get out of it.
That's powerful. Wow.
It's great to see.
We have a couple of comments in the chat. A question. Monica says she's not a therapist, but she's found that empathy can sometimes be found as a personal weakness, and she wants to know how you navigate vicarious trauma. Maybe you could explain what vicarious trauma is too.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that empathy being seen as a weakness is sometimes being vulnerable or seen as vulnerable or perceiving yourself as vulnerable. But that vicarious trauma, which we deal with a lot within the mental health field, but many other people as well, is when you're you're experiencing someone else's trauma, whether they're telling you about it or you're supporting them through it, and then you're yourself kind of becoming traumatized from that story. And so you can imagine, as a therapist, you're hearing a lot of things, and it's difficult not to absorb it all. But several things that I personally do, I think everyone's different. But one, I have a selenite crystal, which I kind of clear myself after some difficult sessions, which is really helpful for me. Also, using my breathwork yoga practices to regulate my own nervous system, I think is really important and is definitely a protective tool for vicarious trauma. But also having the support and knowing that we're human. We're experiencing vicarious trauma because we are human and we are empathizing with other people, and we want to be there, and we're sharing love and support. So acknowledging that, I think, can be also helpful. But then also getting your own support, whether that be processing it with your own therapist or colleagues or spiritual advisors, whatever it is, being able to get the support yourself. But we're all human. We're all going to struggle at times hearing difficult things. But again, that's where the circle of self comes in. If you have that strong foundation, you're not as vulnerable to vicarious trauma because you have this foundation that you've built yourself to help you stay healthy and grounded and well.
You know, every time you bring up this circle, I keep seeing like a community of values, but also a community of physical support, right? Of people, of tools, of things like that. And that seems to be like a reoccurring theme, is like having this communal aspect. And it is really energizing because it emphasizes how, even though you are taking agency and sovereignty in your healing, that you never have to do it alone. That the appropriate way to do it, or at least the natural way, is to like allow others to be a part of that experience. And that circle kind of gives you a nice little checklist of accountability, you know, where you take account: have I checked in my circle? You know, am I participating in my own circle of self? And with that, there's like people that accompany that, right? And that's really interesting. Like, me just listening to you is so powerful, that accountability. You know, I really love that accountability of your circle of self. That's amazing. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And I'm glad you emphasize that communal aspect because we need each other. We're social beings. And so I'm an introvert myself, and needing some time alone is very important for my energy. But I notice my well-being and my health and my happiness is not great if I disconnect from everybody. I have to be connected to people because we're social beings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I lost you. I can't hear you.
He said, "Do you have a cardinal outside?"
A northern one of those red birds. I've seen them, so possibly.
Because we're hearing Tweety birds in the back. That
Oh,
sound beautiful.
really?
It's better than our hustle and bustle over here. It's like,
Yeah,
so lovely.
I love that. It's amazing being on this land. And being on this land, it's like a appreciation, gratitude reset because it's all catchment water, so you have to be very responsible and mindful of how much water you're using. We're living in a jungle, and so you cannot leave food out, or all of the animals, insects come. There's just a lot of things you have to be mindful of. Leaving lights on, and then all of the little moth flies come and take over. Just having to be very mindful and appreciating the comforts that you have when you're not living in like a homestead kind of jungle situation. It's a great reset.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I like had this rite of passage that I just went through, and I was out in like a nice little jungle farm, you know, and it was nothing but men. It was man standard, you know. And child, when I was done and I got home and was able to take a nice hot bath in my clean bed and everything, ratatouille. And I was like, I don't have
Yes.
to work today. This is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I miss Hawaii too. It's a
Yeah.
very beautiful place. definitely a land full of like gratitude is the vibe, 100%.
For sure. I mean, such abundance, but in a different way to kind of like the luxurious abundance that you see elsewhere, right? It's very rooted and grounded and natural.
Yeah, that's like a really good point. Like the abundance that you learn to appreciate
Mm,
in Hawaii isn't about a lot. It's not about substance. It's about sustainability. Like
yeah.
that it's evergreen. There's
Mm-hmm.
always gonna be a lily koi mango dropping. It's so plentiful. But it's not that you got a whole bunch of mangoes over here and a whole bunch of coconuts. You just know that nature's always gonna have it there for you.
Right.
So it's a different mindset of abundance. It's a different narrative, but also, man, just the concept of what abundance is. You start looking for something totally different. You start looking
Mm-hmm.
for that consistency, right? Instead of a big cash out. I love it.
Yeah.
Come on, sis, hit me with some wisdom
Yeah.
today. Give me. Ah.
Oh, I'm knocking out this thing.
What kind of makes me think about Jesse's comment in the chat as well. A lot of
Mm.
us are not paying attention to how our food affects our mood and well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And, I see it everywhere, just even with children. I've had my son on a trip. And so you obviously come around different people that have different habits and different things that they eat. And I've been with Zaid on this trip. I've been having the rule because we don't have, like, he doesn't even have exposure to something like Cheetos, for example.
That was the
And
funniest
so,
conversation. He didn't know what a Cheeto was. I was like, I
Good.
love you, bro. I love you.
but he came and asked me with the bag, because the other kids was eating them, and I was like, "You can pronounce everything on the back," which obviously you can't. And it's interesting to think about how much cognitive dissonance most of us have throughout our lives, because we can eat Cheeto, we call it a Cheeto, but we really have no idea what is actually in the. We have zero connection to actually what's in the food, and so a lot of it is from my perspective, it's about connection. Like, how are you connected to the food? Do you know? Like, how close can you get to where it came from, if that makes sense? How many hands did it pass through? How many times did it get processed? What, all of those things. And obviously a Cheeto would be, you don't know anything that's really in there. We'd have to play that Animaniacs video where they say
Yeah.
all the different ingredients. But I think we live in this world where many of us are depressed. We have times where we feel down and whatnot, but we're putting you mentioned other stuff like music and TV, but food, the food that you put into your system, how badly it can make us feel, or how,
Mm-hmm.
how much it can bring down our mood or our energy levels. And I think most of my life, I had pretty much no awareness of that. I just ate whatever. I had a doctor one time tell me that I could, I saw him for acne when I was like 17, and he told me we should stop drinking soda. And I was like, what? And I remember looking at other people that didn't drink soda, like, you're the weirdest mofos. Like, It doesn't make any sense. But then when you really break it down, to me now, drinking soda doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no hit on anybody that does it. I'm not making fun of you, I promise you. What I'm saying is that, like, from my perspective, being completely unaware of it, it really did affect the way that I felt about myself. And I felt, from day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute. And I was unaware of it, and think about how little nutrition is in there. If you're at work and on break, you go to the vending machine and you get a Dr. Pepper and a bag of Doritos or some equivalent of that. You're getting no nutrition. It's empty calories, some caffeine, a whole load. Like, I mean, I think there's like 25 grams of sugar in a Coke.
Mm-hmm. Think
More
more.
than you're supposed to have in an entire day. And then you apply that to children as well.
Yeah.
But,
Sorry, you go.
no, I was just going to say, you talked about that in a little bit with the circle of self, just if you wanted to expand on it a little bit more.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, and we talked about this before, of we're not perfect. It's not like we'd never drink or eat these things. Like, if I eat a McDonald's or if I drink soda, then I feel physically sick. I feel like I have a cold after I eat it or drink it or the next day. And so that's gotta be telling us something, that it ain't good for us at all. But it is wild how much we went to the store yesterday after we went on a really long hike, and I just needed a little bit of caffeine or something to finish the drive home. And we went in the store, and all I could find was one of those like mixed milky caffeine coffee drinks. And there was, I think it was like 45 grams of sugar in one. And I was, oh my goodness, no. And then Aaliyah picked up a little chocolate milk thing. I said, let me look how much sugar is in there. And it was like 30 something grams of sugar. I'm like, never mind. We'll do fine. Like that is not what would have solved how we were feeling. I'm drained, and we needed some fruit and we needed some water. And it's just wild how much sugar, for one, is in these easy to grab things. And that if we didn't look on the back and we just downed all of that, that's like twice our daily intake of sugar. What would that have done to our bodies and our minds? Nothing good. So I think it's not about being perfect. It's about being aware of it, checking labels, connecting to things where we know where they're coming from. Having a treat every now and then isn't terrible, but just be aware of it and be mindful.
And I think it's also important to empathize with each other and with ourselves, because it's hard out there. We were talking about this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Go to a bowling alley or a movie theater and try to find me somewhere that offers any kind of healthy option for food. They don't. And even the way that the placement of things are at a grocery store or a gas station, it all leads you towards that kind of food. Even like if you're starving and you're on the way home, the cheapest, fastest, and the item that you can smell is going to be the fast food that's around. I just want to say I empathize with everyone, because we've all made all made plenty of mistakes. We didn't eat that healthy over the last 24 hours ourselves. And I mean, you're out there and walking around and out on the move, and it's hard to find what, stuff to keep you nutrition. Eventually we made it over to Whole Foods and bought some fruit to bring back and some nuts and things like that.
But it did take us a while to find a place that would just serve food that wasn't like pushing nothing but alcohol for a while too. Like we had to go on the other side. It was kind of interesting. Something that while you were talking, as an observer watching you and Zaid have that interaction, it was really refreshing for me to see him not respond negatively or abruptly to you saying, hey, read what's on the back, and if you can actually read it, then you can eat it. It was so logical for him. He was like, that makes all the sense in the world. And I think about myself when I tried being a vegetarian and a vegan and a fruitarian and a bread. The real thing that I was dealing with was me thinking or not knowing that there was that it was possible and that I didn't need to have resistance.
Yeah.
Like sometimes change, you would love him, okay? Because he's talking about growing his own sugar cane. So he doesn't want processed sugar. He wants raw sugar cane. And he was like, I love change. He was singing this song earlier today. I love change. I love change. And I'm like, yeah. He has no resistance to change. And that is such a phenomenal power, right? Because of the narratives you guys gave and the agency you've given him in his education and upbringing. He's not scared of change. So him being able to navigate his emotions and thoughts and make choices for himself, he's set up so well. I have so much resistance to change that I've built up. If I could be a little bit like Zaid, I'm trying to learn. I'm watching him like a Zen master now. I'm like, teach me to be change. It was phenomenal. So watching it and observing him not have the expected visceral reaction to resisting change or resisting the agency to transform what I'm thinking or feeling or making a choice for myself, that was really refreshing to be like, oh no, not only does not trauma have to last forever and disorder and disrupt my life, but change doesn't have to be hard, doesn't have to be full of resistance, doesn't have to, I can actually love change just like Zaid. This is awesome. I love it. So watching that and observing it, I was just like, oh, that's what this work is for, is so that I can be like Zaid and just be like, yeah, that's great logic, Pop. If I can't read it, I won't eat it. That's dope.
Change. And he's done so well in terms of he's changed locations, environments multiple times. I mean, all of them. But change schools and just the way they deal with that, it's going to set them up just to be very resilient with different challenges that come up in your life. And we very much believe in finding some roots as well and building a community that we can grow with. But I do think there is a benefit to them experiencing some challenges that have happened with change and that they've had to adapt to and adjust and grow from.
I think the biggest thing that I wouldn't say surprises me, but about Zaid that's made me feel good regarding food is that he's so honest about it. If it was me, I was a bad kid at his age. I would be I would have snuck everything that I could. I didn't care. I wouldn't have cared that you told me not to. But I think it's one thing. It's respect for us, but it's also he has common sense about his own nutrition, and he can accept that he doesn't need to have the same thing as everyone else. It's funny. One thing that always makes me laugh and makes me want to pull my hair out is we'll go around and you see family and friends and be like, "Oh, your kids are so well behaved. Like they eat so healthy and it's so great," and then they try to do everything they can to sabotage that afterwards. It's like, you don't make any sense, because I think I had a relative that told me, well, all the other kids are having it. You can't tell them no. And I'm like, yeah, I can. And why shouldn't it be the other way around? You know what I'm saying? Like if Zaid can go without it, then how come everybody else can't go without it?
Yeah.
It doesn't, we've been really duped in that way. You know what I mean? To think that, like I said, those brands, it goes to brands and stuff. It's that it's something that we have to have, that we can't, or maybe even a better way to put it is something that we can't do without, or we shouldn't do without. It's really like there's so much insanity around it.
Yeah.
I think it's that childhood nature, right? I heard a comedian say one time that children, they only cry when things stop, and adults, they cry until things stop. Like when you're working all throughout your week, you're crying until the week ends, and then you get your weekend, right? And the kids are like, don't stop me from playing. Like right now, the moment you tell me no, I can't continue what I'm doing. Now there's resistance and a fit. But like we're like, I'm so ready to put my feet up at the end of the day type, So I think a lot of us think like the moment you tell someone no, that's like a negative reaction. There needs to be resistance or something of that nature, So like when you're talking about like, yeah, I think, just let it go. Yeah, be like Zayd.
Be like Zayd. Well, when we just live our lives like crying until it stops, like if we really think about it, how much time we've wasted being upset that something is happening. Like if you think about the work week and we're like, oh, this sucks. And I get into this all the time. It's like, oh, I just want to have this project I want to do, or just this other thing that I want to do. But if I just sit there and complain about it all week, then I've just lost like 5 days of opportunities to enjoy what I'm doing, to be present, to all of these things. So when you said that, it just reminded me to be grateful for each moment of the week, even if it's not exactly every moment that I want to be doing.
I think it's safe to say that we're raising some little nutritious revolutionaries.
Oh, yeah.
Alice over here, she's been a revolutionary since age 2, telling people off for eating prepackaged desserts with too many preservatives in them. And I hope that our kids are doing the same thing.
Alice would have got me on my pudding pops and she would have been like, no, you didn't. Bring this peanut butter and jelly sandwich to me.
Do you know what's in this?
Don't tell me. I still eat them too. Don't say it, sis. Don't say it.
Her mom was a hippie like us.
I love it.
Well, hey, let's transition a little bit. When you've been on here before, one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I've received from students is they want to hear more about, I think it's pain reprocessing therapy. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Or you can say reprocessing if you're British.
Well, we're not. So we're over here in America.
Reprocessing. Shall you reprocess your energy?
Yeah. See what I have to put up with all the time? It's British BS. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
That's hilarious.
But I know really very little about it, and I was asking myself, are we talking about physical pain?
Yes and no. Yeah. Do you want me to tell you a little bit more? So the pain reprocessing therapy is specifically for a certain type of pain, a certain type of chronic pain. So if you think about like if you get injured and then you get this like acute pain, that is something to do, like something physiologically happened to you. But that can turn into chronic pain, which may be because there's something in your body, like a joint or a muscle or something that's not healed. And so it's physically, there's still something that is causing the pain. But it can also turn into neuroplastic pain, which is more about our brain misinterpreting some safe, like harmless sensations for something dangerous. So
Ah,
that's neuroplastic pain, and that's what pain reprocessing therapy is for. One thing, we were talking about this earlier, and it reminded me of one of the pain specialists that I work with. He reminded me that the what contributes to chronic pain is less about like severity of a injury, like how severe the injury was. It's more about psychological state at the moment of that injury. It's also about their fear of pain, their perception of pain. If they're dealing with trauma, depression, anxiety, something like that, would make them much more likely to develop chronic pain that's neuroplastic compared to somebody who had a very intense injury that doesn't have these other things around it. I thought it was really interesting. And that just speaks why pain reprocessing therapy, PRT, is so helpful, because what it does is we work with those, the brain is saying this is dangerous, this is fearful, and we work with those thoughts and feelings, and we help the brain learn that these sensations are safe and harmless, and we can be with them. So it's amazing, and it's not about, PRT is not about managing pain. It completely cures the pain. And I've seen it happen with the people I work with. I've seen it happen with people other people work with. And that's why it's so cool, because it completely eradicates the pain if it's neuroplastic. That's the key. We can't heal bones in this way, but if it's something to do with our brain processes and neural pathways, then PRT can help someone no longer experience chronic pain.
thank you for that explanation. My mother was like told that she needed to go to therapy because she had like surgery on her foot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was like a nerve that got damaged. And so they were like sending her to therapy, but she was so confused, right? Because again, she thought therapy was for emotional, psychological trauma and
Mm-hmm.
didn't understand its relationship. And I didn't know how to explain it, so I was just like, well, maybe mom, it'll, like just trying to be encouraging. But the way you explained it, it makes so much more sense. And you said it in a way that I can articulate to her that might actually give her some hope and some
Mm-hmm.
encouragement that'll get her motivated. Because, yeah, that makes a lot of sense that sometimes our bodies, they literally just get the signals mixed up and they'll
Mm-hmm.
sit there and say, to protect you from that action or something like that, that it'll build up this sensitivity and all that. Man, that's awesome. Thank you, sis. Now I have more.
It's so great. Yeah, it's really good. And the way we describe it is, if you imagine like hiking trails, the hiking trails that a lot of people go on, and it's the trail is worn down, the plants are on the side, like it's a very clear path. Those are the neural pathways that we walk every day. So if our brain is telling us every day that this sensation in my back is painful, it's scary, it's never going to end, it's making me so anxious, and we keep walking that path, it just makes it stronger, wider, more clear, right? And so PRT is about building a new hiking trail, basically. We're making a new neural pathway where there's education parts of it, but there's also somatic parts where we have people go into their bodies, and then I'll have them scan their bodies and find an area that's calling attention. It may not be the back. Oftentimes someone comes in with back pain and then the area is like their shoulder. And so we go to their shoulder and then they describe it, and we get very specific. Like, what does it feel like? Is it the size of an orange, a watermelon? Is it hard? Is it soft? Is it sharp? Is it dull? Is it all of these things? Have them describe it, be really curious about it, tell me how much distress it's causing them, how intense it feels. And then 9 times out of 10, if it's neuroplastic, it will start to move. And so they'll be in this somatic tracking for, it could be an hour, we could be doing it. And I'll just have them follow it. And they'll be like, oh, now it's moving down my arm. It's like, okay, great. Like, tell me what it feels like now. What's it doing? And then by the end of a lot of tracking sessions, the pain would have gone. And that shows us that it's neuroplastic. It's not structural. It's something we taught the brain in that moment that this sensation was safe. And it just kind of moved around and then it dissipated. Oh,
That's
that's how we do it.
that's so amazing because I was gonna ask you like, how do you map it? Like, how do you what's the process of articulating that? It also made me think of Ho'oponopono, like the massaging system and the way that we
Mm,
map it. Like, you'll get the knot way down here, But the way that you map it, which is this web based on our hands, right? You go through the body, you find that it's on the opposite side, and it's in this other little thing, and that's what needs to be reworked. And
Yeah.
again, it's that narrative, right? Like, it's we said it earlier today. It's not what you get; it's what you do with it. And when you can just get it moving a little bit, that momentum really releases and can change the neural pathway and maybe get it back to where it was, or even a better place than where it was before the trauma. That's
Yeah.
so dope. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's really cool. And you can end up doing it. Once I got trained, I started doing it on myself, and I was experiencing a lot of kind of back issues. But when I would go to work, I would experience it. I wouldn't really experience it on the weekend. So I knew it was neuroplastic. And so just being able to be, when the sensation come up, not getting this fear and all of the other things that come with it, but being able to look at it, feel what it feels like, the size, watch it move, and then it just starts to dissipate. So it's a lot about like that fear pain cycle that we're working with and we're trying to unravel and soften. But
It
yeah,
sounds
it's
akin to
great.
like reevaluation counseling almost.
Mm,
Like back in the 70s, there was like this nice little reevaluation counseling methodology that was coming out where you kind of unpack it differently than
mm,
like trying to go into the sensories that cause the trigger. You made the triggers mundane. Like red is
yeah,
just a color. Remember that the red shirt is just red, and then that there's a shirt and they're separate, and then you can reorder and reorganize. That's really interesting. I never knew that that approach was being applied to like our physiological relationships to inward pain, right? Because
yeah.
pain is like it's an acknowledgement within ourselves. Because I've hit my toe and not cried and scream, and then the next morning I do it in the middle of the night, and it was just like, oh, I hit my pinky toe, and it's the most painful thing. I've
Mm,
had both, where the situation's the same, but the reaction and the response, the narrative isn't. So, like, knowing that there's even in our physical bodies having trauma, not even just the
yeah,
emotional internal stuff, we can use these methods to help bring rest and bring ease to dis-ease places in our hearts, minds, souls, and bodies. That's amazing.
yeah.
What's it called again?
Pain reprocessing therapy,
Pain reprocessing therapy. That's amazing.
PRT. And I use this for anxiety as well. So if I have someone who's feeling very anxious, I'll do the same sort of somatic tracking and
Mm,
ask them where they're feeling the anxiety. And so a lot of the times it comes up in like chest areas, and I'll have someone just go there, describe what it feels like. And you may think, how could someone describe what that feels like? But every single time I've had someone do it, they've been able to say what kind of size it feels like, what it's like heavy sometimes. They could put a color to it even. Like there's things that they can describe. And then we'll just do some certain things. I personally like to do some breathing stuff with it, and I'll kind of expand the area, just make more space. And that's the key thing. I'm not trying to get rid of the anxiety or the pain sensations. I'm just trying to create space for it and be curious about it. So there's no pressure in getting rid of it. It's just let's see it, let's let it be. And then same sort of thing, just describe it and then it moves a lot of the time, even with anxiety. Might go down, I feel it in my hand, like it's tingly, and okay, let's go there, let's feel it. What does it feel like? So it can be intense for some people, especially people who aren't used to being in their body, so you just have to take it really slow if that's the case. But it's a very powerful tool to use for a lot of different things.
Well, we have a few more comments in the chat, and then we ought to wind it down.
Mm-hmm.
Alice is throwing in a plethora of acronyms at us, which I'm not sure what the question is. Do you use it to target CRPS? Do you know what that is?
I don't. Alice, what is CRPS?
If you're still there, Alice, let us know. And then Jesse says, that's so interesting. I would have never thought about that about pain. How can it be determined what is more psychological than physical?
So we work closely with a pain specialist, and they're the ones that determine whether it's neuroplastic. They use the term nociplastic a lot, which is very similar to neuroplastic, or structural. So they'll do like the usual things of x-rays, MRIs, and looking at different things in that way. And the pain specialist I work with is amazing and very much involved with the psychological side of it and very much understands pain reprocessing therapy. So is able to see, yes, this is very much neuroplastic. So it's a collaborative thing. As a clinician, I'm not the one solely that would determine if it was physical or psychological. We do work with the medical team on that, which I think is awesome too. To have them consider the psychological part and us consider the medical part. It's connected.
Yeah, that's something I was going to say. I know about everything that you've been saying is there is no real separation between these things, right? The physical and the emotional and the psychological, they are part and parcel of the same human experience. And everything that you kept talking about is how they integrate and how this healing process is like, it's just removing the resistance from them between each other, right? Like getting the resistance from the body and the heart, that little cutoff moment of pain and trauma, or the psychological one from the emotional one, whatever that cutoff was or that stoppage, this like the healing process just eases that tension, etc. And yeah, I love that the way you've just been talking, you revolutionized a little bit of therapy for me today because you made it so integrated, you know? It's really, really lovely.
Yeah.
Alice says it's complex regional pain syndrome. You familiar?
No, Alice, I'm not entirely sure. I'm guessing if there's like nuances to it. I'm guessing if there's parts of that kind of syndrome that is not purely structural, then yes. Things like fibromyalgia, migraines, those sort of things can also be targeted with PRT. PRT can be very effective for fibromyalgia and migraines. So apologies, Alice, I'm not entirely sure on that one. But if it's similar to those things, then I would say yes.
Better do some research for the next episode.
I know. We'll get back to you.
Maybe we can get Alice to call in.
Yeah.
I have a serious question. Is there any difference with how you handle pain reprocessing therapy and how you handle pain reprocessing therapy?
I could tell what kind of question this was going to be by watching you trying not to smile. I love that.
I was oblivious. I was really ready. I was ready. I was like, what question? This is about good.
I used to be able to get past on Alicia and the kids on so many things, and they're outsmart me now. Like they know my looks and my body language. I can't even do it.
It's hilarious.
Like you taught the kids to be aware. And
yeah. We know specific things. There's something he does with his mouth when he's telling a joke, and we know that. Yeah. And then he has like an angry toe as well, just totally outing you.
Bro, you can't play poker with your family. They got you.
I think I could beat them in poker, but
maybe that. And spelling.
So I have another serious question on the same level. So it's like we said, it's our anniversary today as we're closing out. And I have two questions that are really, two sides of the same coin. How is it that you're surviving there without me? And then how have you managed to survive all these years with me? Probably the more serious question.
Yoga. That's it.
Exactly. Yep, yoga. No. Wow. There's an end in sight where our family will be all reunited. So that's nice for us to know. And honestly, we're eating all the foods like lentils and a lot of lentils that you just wouldn't like.
Well, I'm just saying we really like it here in Chicago. I love it here in Chicago. There's the concrete jungle. I'm thinking about staying.
And we know that's not true.
I caught it that time.
You did.
I was like, nah, this is lying.
Totally lying. No, it will be great for everyone to be back.
Chicago has been good to us, and we've met a lot of incredible people already. And it's nice to be out walking around and seeing so many people, different, a lot of diversity going on around here.
Yeah.
But I ain't gonna lie, I always thought I wanted to live in the city, and I just don't. I'm a country boy, and I can't wait to get back out there to the country.
I didn't know it either, bro. I thought I was a city boy, and now I'm like, give me my land, homie. Like, that's all I want.
Let me grow some food and have some animals and
sweet
hang
potatoes.
out with my family.
Oh yeah.
Barefoot. Wow. Heaven.
Yeah. I will say this is that this is the most I've worn shoes in a millennium.
Bro.
Yeah.
Because I don't wear shoes anymore.
We haven't worn socks in, I don't know.
Especially indoor. indoors, you know, almost nowhere, I guess maybe in a restaurant or something, but almost nowhere in Hawaii or Alaska. We were in Alaska, and, you know, culturally, you don't wear your shoes in the house, period. Like, it's a big deal as far as respect and all cleanliness and all kinds of things. But it's the exact opposite in Utah, where I was just at. Everybody wears their shoes pretty much in the house, and you're weird if you they'd think it was weird or taboo if you did take them off.
Yeah. I remember your family looking at me weirdly when I was in the driveway and didn't have any shoes on. I remember that so vividly, and I was like, why are people looking at my feet? Yeah, I'm barefoot.
I think people look at it as ghetto instead of like natural.
Yeah.
For some reason. Been duped in that way. And then obviously here in the city, we got to march through the concrete jungle, so you need a good pair of sneakers.
Yeah, you do.
To get around. I learned my lesson about wearing flip-flops on long walks through, you know, on the hard ground. It doesn't work out for you very well.
No.
Not at all.
It's been a pleasure talking to you, Miss Alicia, and very much looking forward to getting back to rejoining the family. But we have some work to do before we go back, a lot of people to connect with. And I have to say, you know, we weren't sure about, you know, who we were going to be stationed here with. And we met several. We were out here wandering around trying to find our booth, and several people were really kind to us, showing us our way. And then we got over here, connected with the two of the women, the other influencers, quote unquote influencers over here. And, you know, our neighbor right here, she went to prison and found out that her mind was captivated and liberated her mind while she was, I can't remember if it was prison or jail.
She was in prison in a third world
country. In a
country.
third world country.
Like,
wow.
Yeah, child.
We will be talking to both of them. By the way, we've added them to the schedule, maybe tomorrow evening. And then the other one is like a Chicana, local Chicana indigenous
Guatemala
female from Guatemala that now lives here in Chicago. And when we have to listen to her talk about what she's into herself, but talk about revolutionary social work, I'm telling you, wait till you hear about it. So it's really cool. The people they brought in here are, I mean, they're really legit, just not as like social workers, but as revolutionary social workers and, you know, human beings bucking the status quo and resisting against whatever system is out here. You know what I mean? They're very, very fortunate. So I'm very much looking forward to talking to them. And they'll be at night, so hopefully you can make it.
Yeah,
yes,
that would be awesome.
Yes, you got to. They're amazing. They're pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, all right, Alicia, as they say in Alcoholics Anonymous, do you have any burning desires before we let you go?
I just enjoyed my time with you two and everybody in the chat. So appreciate you all. Gratitude.
Thank you, everybody that contributed. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Jesse, Cache, Monica. And I hope we see you all in the episodes coming up. Well, geez, tomorrow we have so many good guests I keep forgetting, but we have Paul Michael Garrett, dissenting social work, all the way from Ireland, tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central Time. We've got Cache, who was in here, reconnecting with them. And we just had an excellent interview on the other side with them just the other day. That was cool. And then we've got Rev Love, another true revolutionary. I find trouble even describing her because she does so many things: sound therapy, yoga. I guess I should say sound healing, yoga, connected to the Dr. Matulu Shakur. Lots of things to talk about then. And then we got Lion Fi, a reggae artist from Hawaii, coming to talk about some of his new music and how he, you know, infuses indigenous lyrics and revolutionary lyrics into his music. He's a Rastafarian. So very much looking forward to that. And if you've ever turned on the radio in Hawaii, think about that song, Feel Like a Kid Again. They definitely have played it a lot. So if you've ever listened to Island 98.5 or any of those stations, you've heard that song before, because they don't hesitate. They're not very shy about playing the same music at all.
It's the same playlist. Play 5 times a day.
Years, there's still some songs from 20 years ago that are at the top 10 still. I'm like, this is a classic.
Yeah.
I'm actually shocked about how I can leave for a few years and come back. And I get some, you know, like, for example, if you're talking about Bob Marley or UB40, I get it, but sometimes I'm like, well, this song should have been a fad song from 6 years ago, and they're still playing it over.
Making it easy.
Get it? Yeah.
Rebel Soldiers. Yeah.
No, good stuff. But seriously, thank you for the conversation. I love talking about all this stuff. So thank you.
Thank you for your time this afternoon. Go spend some time with those beautiful little girls. Tell them I said hello. We'll be back soon. And like I said, I hope you can join us on some of these other conversations that we're having throughout the week, even though, I know you have to work and make that money and be responsible and all that. And time difference really kills it.
Yeah.
We got a 5-hour time difference.
Yeah. 5 hours.
Yeah.
You guys are tired, huh?
We've been busy and we got to get up and get right back on it, but that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Alicia, aloha, love you, happy anniversary.
Aloha. Love you too, dear. Love to you too, MT.
So good seeing you, sis. Happy anniversary, you two. Let's talk
Thank
about
you.
how marriage and love and working it out, how that is maybe some of the most responsible social work in the world, right? A happy relationship that breeds a wonderful family. Thank y'all for doing the best social work any humans can do. And yes, if you do that on your phone, you will
I
get
didn't
the
know
heart.
we do that.
Yeah, do it. Hit us with the love. Wow. Love it.
That's my anniversary gift to you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay.
All right, good night.
Well, so long. Aloha.
Bye. Aloha.
You've been listening to the Revolutionary Social Work Podcast, and we just want to say thank you for your continued support. You can catch us on YouTube, Apple Music, and Spotify. Remember to like and subscribe, and don't forget to share our content with the world. But most of all, never forget to keep being revolutionary. Peace.